Welcome to Truth and Transparency Thursday night. Thursday. Again, feeling great back at my desk. Woo. We'll let all those notifications pop off. Grab yourself a warm glass of milk. Whatever it is that you... what's up, Bumblebee? Looking at that tan, yep. I don't know who wears it better. My tan or the trolls and their lies. Which one's better? Again, good evening, everybody. Welcome back. I feel great. Back at my desk, like I said. Loving the tan. Yes. I think I was spoiled all the years with golf and everything, so I normally had a tan. But thanks, the new me. Thank you. I'm going to get started here in just 3 minutes. Letting all the notifications pop off within the first 5 minutes. I definitely have a couple things to say about what's been said from the Beaver Countyans, John Paul. So that's what this live's about. And I kind of scratched my head and asked, why isn't he writing articles and doing his job that he charges $10 a month for, but instead, I guess, talking about me is, and talking about Sheldon Jeter Jr.'s mom. I guess that's kind of what he'd rather do with his time. So, let's talk about it. Hey there, what's up, Sarah? Again, hello to everybody in chat. Showing off my new necklace. Mia, what is good? What is good? What is good? All right, just under a minute here. What's up, Boston? Again, this is everybody that I'm saying hi to. That's everybody in live chat. You do have that option if you're new to the channel. You can chat with these lovely people. Maybe not some are lovely, but for the most part. I'm fabulous. I am good. Definitely good. Thumbs up, definitely. Yeah, thumbs up the video if you like it. Thumbs down it if you don't. Make yourself known. What is up, Dom's mom? Do I see Dom's mom? Yes. Yes. I got some West Coast, East Coast love. I see it. I do have a nice tan. You should see my tan lines. Again, hello to everybody. Let's go ahead and do it. All right. Well, when I was gone, I think it was when I was gone. Maybe it could have been right before I left. I'm not too sure of the date, but John Paul took to social media went to a channel and decided to write a bunch of, comments. And I guess Sister Knives was so generous to create a video about it and to point out John Paul's comments that were made during a live. Again, John Paul is, he has his own website. He's a blogger, and it's Beaver County. And he wrote over 100 articles. Rachael, DelTondo, Sheldon Jeter Jr. And he hasn't wrote in months. He charges $10 a month. I know people are really upset in Beaver. They can't get their money back. He's still charging. He's not writing. But lo and behold, here he pops up and wants to talk about myself and Sheldon's mom, as well as other random stuff. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you let's see. There we go.
I ain't gonna drown, I fall right to the top. If you try to hold me down, singing hey, yeah, hey, yeah. You can push me down, but yeah, hey, yeah. The tide is getting high, but
Okay, Beaver County says, my understanding is that Ohio law prohibits a board of a nonprofit. So he's talking about Fight for a Family here. And this is the first clip. Then goes right here.
singing
He's obviously talking to somebody in chat at Tag Your It. Producers for national publications are involved in the analyzing of information being collected about Oriani's false theories involving innocent witnesses in homicide cases.
you can push me down, but I get up again.
Beaver County says, allow me to help you understand the current situation. Miss Oriani's theories are false. Her accusations against witnesses in homicide investigations are untrue, harassing, and dangerous. Interesting. What else? Today, Miss Oriani tagged CBS 48 Hours, CBS Pitt, and a local newspaper. These news organizations are aware of Miss Oriani and have independently come to the same conclusion. The woman is crazy.
Ain't gonna stop, I ain't gonna stop.
Oriani banned me after I revealed her claims that Sheldon Jeter had been cleared of murder by the district attorney were false. We spoke to the DA, who denied Miss Oriani's assertions as untrue. Mr. Jeter's mother has claimed to be in an intense sexual relationship with Miss Oriani. Now, this is where just the what? Delsha's never spoke to this man in her life. So this right here, this is, what would you call this? Mr. Jeter's mother has claimed to who? To you? To be in an intense sexual relationship with Miss Oriani. Although Miss Oriani has denied such. Why is a gay man, first of all, asking and commenting about anything to do with my sex life? How is that I don't know. I just wouldn't think that that's professional at all, but whatever. Um,
I ain't gonna stop, ain't gonna stop, I ain't gonna stop, ain't gonna stop singing. I got my
my understanding is, oh, she's just replaying that. I think that might be the only thing. Let me see. Oh, here it is. I have spoken to the county district attorney who informed me that under state law, private investigators must be licensed in the state, and Miss Oriani is not licensed and is not qualified to be. I'll get to my comments in a minute.
You can push me down.
Okay, so he goes from saying I, okay, right? I have spoken to county district attorney. Then he goes to saying we have spoken with high-level law enforcement officials. I don't know who we is because last time I checked, John Paul is one person. So I have no idea who we is referring to. We have spoken with high-level law enforcement officials who revealed Miss Oriani is under investigation in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Colorado. State police received complaints about Miss Oriani. Again, he's putting his name there, John Paul. Again, I don't know who we is, but John Paul is one person, and we sounds good.
Me down. But I get up again.
FYI, we have B-roll. That's like lingo for, and I think he thinks he's like lingo rolling with CBS and the way that producers talk. But we have B-roll of Miss Oriani outside of the Broomfield court. So, again, who's we? Oh, and now this is priceless here. Our assessment is that many of these mods. So, hey, I just want to give a shout out to all my mods. This one was for you guys, apparently. That you guys are basically, you guys just kiss my ass and tell me whatever, because I'm so important that you need me to, you're trying to gain, you know, whatever it is you're trying to gain, but that this is just insane. I'm very tan. Thank you, Muffy. Woo, my hair's even blonder. Just when you put that sun in. Now, do you guys remember when you put sun in your hair? B-roll. Drum roll, please. So, yeah. Where was I? You know, he's saying that he is not scared of, I guess, me in the courtroom with my broke ass, not being able to afford litigation. So, he says reporting facts is not, nothing can come about that. Well, wow. Let's see. The last time I interfaced with Miss, I've never talked to him ever in my life. She told me she wanted to birth my child. Why would I ever tell a gay man I wanted to birth his child? What? Boy. Wow. Wow. What is this right here? I do not want to interface with Miss Oriani in any way that could result in offspring. Wow. Okay. Well, Again, this was all his comments on a channel. Like I said, he hasn't wrote anything in months. This person is, he talks about people being licensed. He has a website. He is a blogger. He considers himself an investigative journalist. He has no journalism degree. In fact, he doesn't have a degree at all. But honestly, that's here nor there. But I just think it's funny that he wants to mention, you don't need a degree and you don't need a license to investigate. Period. Wow. So woo. I'm just going to go in the order that I want to go in with all this craziness. But let's talk about credibility. And, if anybody's followed John Paul's work, and if you followed Beaver County and Aliquippa, it's very corrupt. There's always, it's been something that's been the case for many, many years. And John Paul had no, his experience as a journalist is that when he first started. His husband was quote unquote, he's a police officer. But in 2011, let me go to my notes because I don't want to misquote something. My law enforcement sources told me that John Paul's husband was the whistleblower in a huge civil rights case in 2011, and that actually resulted in him being quote unquote suspended. What they called was horseplay. He was suspended and basically lost his job. Now, I'm going to bring up an incident where John Paul actually had to take the stand and testify, where he accused then police chief Georgie David, of trying to kill him, in threatening that he was going to kill him, pulled the gun out on him, and there was a trial. So I'm going to show you guys some of these articles where John Paul had to testify and what this police chief was up. 11 counts. There were 11 counts against this police chief. And John Paul had the Beaver County in back then. I believe he started it, I want to say 2011, but so here, I want to show you guys something. Stop sharing that. Let's share this. Let's share screen. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read this off for you guys, but here we go. I'm actually going to start down here at the end, but Thursday, David took the stand in his own defense. He testified that JP told him his story was the first step in bringing down a public official. Ambridge Police Chief James Mann, Jimmy Mann, was called to the stand Thursday morning before David's testimony. Mann testified that Georgie David, once asked him whether he could use his influence to reinstate online reporter John Paul's partner, Brad. He was a former Ambridge police officer, and he had been suspended for quote-unquote horsing around with another officer early on Christmas morning in 2011. Again, David was facing 11 misdemeanor charges, including obstruction of justice, intimidating witnesses, and threats. So, it is said to believe that John Paul somewhere said to Georgie David, hey, I want you to get my husband's job back as a police officer. Jimmy Mann testified to this that, yeah, Georgie David asked me about that, asked me about Brad's position and his job. And he said it was, more like a favor. Now, fast forward to this happened. Let's see here. No, this one right here. So this is 2014. Okay, but before 2014, that's when John Paul had talked to Georgie David and basically asked him about getting, Brad's job back. By the way, it was a 5-day trial. Now, okay, I'm going to give you the testimony of John Paul. But I'm also going to give you a little bit of backstory here. Because again, it's all important when you want to be considered credible and when people want to talk about what I'm dealing with in Denver. Let's talk about corruption and people lying and everything as a whole. So, is John Paul credible? Is he a credible witness? Does Beaver County think he's credible? Let's see. All right. I think I said police chief. He was the sheriff. I think I said chief, so I want to correct that. Again, this is 2014. A county sheriff threatened to cut off the hands of a political campaign worker, pulled a gun on a newspaper reporter, and then intimidated underlinings and other witnesses so they wouldn't confirm the encounters to journalists and investigators, police, prosecutors. You guys can look up all what was said, but basically racial slurs. So John Paul is very well aware of how Beaver County has been operating, the corruption there, the lies, the racial tension. And here John Paul says that he went in to have a meeting with this sheriff, and in this meeting, he, get you to right here. In April, David allegedly also threatened the website owner and lead reporter John Paul, who had written about a controversy involving the purchase of deputies' uniforms. JP ran from the courthouse and told the grand jury he called the county detectives and also called, these were two different people, because in a meeting, this Georgie David allegedly, is what he's saying, John Paul is alleging, that Georgie David said that if he knew he was going to die today, I would blow their brains out, referring to two different people. And that witnesses said that he then took his gun from his holster and screamed at the online journalist who previously had a good relationship with David. I'll blow your brains out too, the sheriff said, according to the grand jury. JP ran from the courthouse and told the grand jury he called the county detectives and also called the two people to warn them of David's remarks. This is just so funny, like, afterwards, two deputies wrote reports denying that anything inappropriate happened during the meeting. The grand jury wrote with one telling the panel he did so for fear of losing his job. Both deputies also told state troopers that David did nothing appropriate before the deputy told the grand jury that David had asked them to lie. Okay, so these are the allegations, and they go ahead and sheriff is looking at 11 counts. So they take this to trial. Sheriff was repped by Lee Rothman, a very good defense attorney. He was actually Sheldon's defense attorney with Santa Cola in the beginning, but then he was no longer, Lee Rothman was no longer repping Sheldon Jeter in the Pew case. So let's hear John Paul's testimony, and let's hear what the jury comes back with, and do they find his story credible, because either his story is going to be credible and you believe him, and therefore the jury would then find somebody guilty, or you're not credible, the jury doesn't find your story credible, and is there a vendetta against this man that you're accusing? And do they find actually not guilty because you're not credible? So is the jury going to find this police chief guilty, okay, or not guilty? And it's going to fall on the testimony of two deputies, John Paul, as far as the prosecution goes. So let's go ahead and take a look-see. And here we go. July 11th, 2014 at 2 p.m. Aliquippa. Beaver County Sheriff George David flashed a broad smile and gave a thumbs-up victory sign after a 7-woman, 5-man jury acquitted him on 4 separate charges Friday afternoon. He faced counts of making threats, witness intimidation, and simple assault. The verdict was a 5-day trial in which the 67-year-old David took the stand in his own defense, saying he never pulled a gun on the alleged victim and never threatened him. State police arrested David more than 2 years ago after John Paul of the Beaver County and told investigators that David waved a gun in his face and threatened to kill him during a meeting in 2012. The jury today returned the verdict around 5 p.m. after about an hour, only an hour, of deliberating. 1 hour. Sheriff David, with his wife at his side, told reporters after the verdict, "It shows you how far a lie can go. Took 2 years and 3 months. It was a lie from the beginning. The jury seen it. It just took a while for it to come out." Even though David has been under house arrest, he said he never was actually off the job, though he was not allowed in his office in Beaver County Courthouse. He said, I was working from my house. I kept working, and I'm proud of that. John Paul was not in the courtroom when the jury read the verdict. You know, he always emphasizes how he's the only one in the courtroom. Well, John Paul was not present for the jury to read this. 1 hour. Took him 1 hour. Closing arguments wrapped up just before 3 p.m. Friday. Prosecutors put on 3 rebuttal witnesses Friday morning before resting their case. The judge then gave the jury the final instructions. During closing arguments, defense attorney Lee Rothman argued that because of the alleged political motives of some of the parties involved in the dispute between the sheriff and online reporter John Paul, there's enough reasonable doubt in this case. Again, let me read that again for you. During closing arguments, defense attorney Lee Rothman argued that because of the alleged political motives of some of the parties involved in the dispute between the sheriff and online reporter John Paul, there is enough reasonable doubt in this case. This case is filled with pause and hesitation, argued Rothman. He'd pull out a weapon with 2 other deputies present, then let him go on his way. That's absurd. But prosecutor Brandsetter argued the sheriff, even though he denied the threats, was indeed capable of making those threats. You have a man in a uniform bragging about a blackjack waving a gun, said the prosecutor. That's the threat. It's the entire meeting. It was a show of force. The jury was charged with deciding whether the sheriff was guilty of making the threats, the simple assault, physical menace, witness intimidation. They found him not guilty on all counts. A conviction on any of those charges would not have meant an automatic removal from office. The law is only specific about automatic removal from office upon conviction of felonies. David's charges were misdemeanors. Again, Thursday, David took the stand in his own defense. He testified that John Paul told him his story was the first step in bringing down a public official. Ambridge Police Chief James Mann was called to the stand right before David's testimony. Jimmy Mann testified that David once asked him whether he could use his influence to reinstate online reporter John Paul's partner. Brad, a former Ambridge police officer, had been suspended for horsing around with another officer early on Christmas morning. So my question is they didn't believe him. The jury said not guilty. Where's where he's quoted in the stuff that he was saying? He was crying on the stand. Giving the performance of a lifetime. That's one of these. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. The prosecution's key witness, John Paul, was on the stand Tuesday morning undergoing cross-examination by the defense. Let me put this up there for you. Again, the prosecution's key witness, John Paul, was on the stand Tuesday morning undergoing cross-examination by the defense. Attorney Lee Rothman, who represented David, attempted to raise questions about whether John Paul was consistent in his prior testimony about his meeting with David, in which he says he was threatened with a billy club and a gun. Rothman also asked John Paul if one of the first people he called after the incident was Brad, and if it in fact was his husband. John Paul admitted they married relatively recently. His marital status is only at issue because the defense claims that John Paul had a vendetta against the sheriff because David didn't do enough to get Davis a job. Davis, a former police officer, and then a Sheriff Sergeant Michael Tibelet testified that he told investigators that nothing happened in the meeting between David and the online reporter because he was afraid he'd lose his job if he told the truth. He eventually testified before a grand jury and testified today and under a grant of immunity. David accused John Paul of being put up to writing a negative story about him by his political foes. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Anyways, so in 2014, John Paul takes a stand and, he's not credible. The jury doesn't go with it. They say not guilty. This didn't happen. Because basically you're either going to believe his story or you're not. And so my question is John Paul, if you know how corrupt Beaver County is and you've dealt with them all these years, what would you possibly have a problem with me showing the same thing? Why would the Rachael DelTondo case be any different than any other case in Beaver County? So there's corruption, because I'll tell you what John Paul is going to tell us is that he didn't lie, he told the truth, and that obviously the sheriff lied, and everybody else lied, and then the police decided to tell the truth. But the jury didn't see it that way. The jury said not guilty. Did the jury get it wrong? And I would hope that John Paul would be like, yeah, the jury got it wrong, because this is exactly what happened. What I testified to is what happened. Well, why didn't the jury get it right then? Why didn't the jury in Beaver County get that right? Are you not credible? What? So if they got your situation wrong, could they have gotten Sheldon's wrong? If you've always spoke about corruption and questionable stuff, why would 2018 with Rachael DelTondo's case and just wanting to blame a black person, I mean, you witnessed it firsthand. The cops lied about what happened in your meeting. You know the cops lie. You know law enforcement lies. Or did you lie? What do you guys think? It's interesting. I just read an article that Aliquippa schools are confiscating kids' snacks. No snacks in school. He could do better reporting. So, I mean, Georgie David and Lee Rothman said that John Paul had a vendetta. Sources that have spoke to me said that when John Paul gets fixated on things, vendettas, and that he zones in, and that's all he can do and say and think. And I mean, that's kind of showing to be true, that he is fixated on me. He is fixated on Sheldon Jeter Jr. He's fixated on Sheldon's mom. He was fixated on a deaf woman. Fixated to the point that he hasn't wrote a single article to do with anything remotely Beaver County. And yet he thinks that he knows, and that law enforcement is telling him about investigations. Then why not write about it? Why not write about how wild I am? Why are you talking about Sheldon Jeter Jr.'s mother's sex life that you know nothing about? She's never talked to you, and yet you're going to make a claim in a troll chat about Sheldon Jeter Jr.'s mother. Are you stalking her? Didn't you stalk them for enough years since the murder of Rachael? Harassing, annoying, writing, what did you do every single couple days? Did an article about Rachael, did an article about Sheldon, or both of them. You talked about them every single day to somebody. Every single day you talked about them. Well, do you think that's stalker behavior? You fixate on people. You fixate on things. But why? Why wouldn't you believe the fact that that police could be corrupt because they were corrupt with you? They lied about you, right? So you're the only person that could happen to. And then if you know that it happens, how can you be so like, you know that they all lie and you're just, I talked to the district attorney and the district attorney said this. Oh, okay. So the district attorney thinks a hell of a person and they don't lie. Law enforcement. Thank you, Patricia. I'm glad that you caught alive. What in the actual F am I hearing right now? Oh. This situation is completely different than both of those. You are not crazy. I know, I'm not crazy. JP is speaking about Delsha's sex life. Yes. He went in a live chat and here I will show it again for those that are joining late. Right here. Mr. Jeter's mother has claimed to be in an intense sexual relationship with Miss Oriani. Mr. Jeter's mother has never spoke to you, John Paul, ever in her life. Although Miss Oriani has denied such. I mean, what do you think that Del should do about this? I already told her what she should do. We know your sources completely suck. But Mr. Jeter's mother has claimed, she's never claimed this ever once, that she was in an intense sexual relationship with me. But you got some nerve, buddy. She's never claimed anything to you because she's never talked to you. Usually if you're being investigated by, I don't know, law enforcement, high-level law enforcement, do you think that they're going to... Why would they tell you a damn thing? Oh my God, we're just going to reveal to John Paul what's going on in Colorado, Ohio, and Pennsylvania? What this tells me is that you're spiraling. You fixate on me, and you have since June of 2021. I can prove it. You're not producing any work. You're not writing about anything. You are and have been obsessed with Sheldon, Delsha, Rachael. People have questioned your political agenda, who your foes are, because the enemy of your enemy becomes your friend. And that's exactly what you just did with going to those troll chats where people aren't fond of me. And that's where you chum it up. Since 2018, you have financially gained ridiculous amounts of money with a bogus narrative. And that's all I brought to the attention of Beaver County. And I defended and fought for an innocent man who happens to be black. An innocent black man who you know firsthand that Aliquippa's racist. Beaver County's racist. They're racists. You said it on the stand that Georgie David talked about how he would beat you like he beat the black people in Aliquippa. Does that sound like a racist comment? Because I think it does. Rachael DelTondo was your source. Told you she was in fear of her life. 6 months later, she is murdered, gunned down and murdered. Not crime of passion. Blazed, sprayed in the back 9 times. That's not crime of passion, buddy. Yes, he did. He also talked about, what Sheldon was wearing. He claims that I banned him from my channel after he, who the hell knows what, but, Sheldon's going to get back in that courtroom. You do know that, right? And I highly doubt you're going to be allowed to be even in there. And I hope and I pray that they most certainly talk about the fact that anybody that has ever had a membership to your website won't be able to be on the jury because your assassination of Sheldon Jeter Jr., every article that you've ever written, your time on 48 hours, there is zero evidence tying Sheldon to Rachel's murder. And you know this. But you want to talk about digital evidence. Where is it? The DA wasn't even in the courtroom and wasn't arguing against Corey Woods. So I don't know why you would ever ask the district attorney anything about what he said, because he didn't say it. Jordan, the assistant, said it about, he went on record and made a very bold statement. And I've already talked about that. He basically said, why would we need to ask anything about Rachael DelTondo? It has nothing, it's nothing to do with this case. That Rachael DelTondo has nothing to do with this case. With these jury, with the jury. What? Well, that's funny. Rachael DelTondo has everything to do with the Pew case. When the questions that should have been asked. You know it. I know it. Sheldon Jeter Jr. didn't get a fair trial. And if you can honestly say that, then you're a bigger liar than I could ever imagine. But the jury found the sheriff not guilty within 1 hour. Not guilty. You took the stand. You were not credible. The jury thought you were not credible. Came back not guilty. And yet you claim that you thought you were done. You thought that that Georgie was going to shoot you right there. That you had to go out the back door because there was surveillance back there with a camera. But that you were looking down the barrel of the gun. The officer testified that it was at a 45-degree angle. And that would definitely not be the angle if you were looking down the barrel of a gun. But that's not here nor there. You know firsthand, Mr. John Paul, what Beaver County is all about, what Aliquippa is all about. In 2014, you went through something. Rachael DelTondo, 4 years later, is murdered, 2018. And you don't think that has anything to do with the police who she said she was deathly afraid of. Meanwhile, you know that police officers lie. They lie. The whole damn town lies. But you're going to go ahead and write 100 articles crucifying Sheldon. I don't think that he'll be, I don't think this case will be tried in Beaver. So this court case he was a part of was recent. It was 2014. It happened in 2012, and then it took 2 years and 3 months to come, to the courtroom where 7 women and 5 males within an hour came back and said, guess what? You're not credible. We don't believe your testimony. Not guilty. The sheriff is not guilty. He didn't do this. We don't believe it happened like that. I mean, but the funny thing is that you're going to sit there and you're going to say, you didn't lie, right? And I'm going to sit here and say that I probably believe you about some of it. Because I think you like to get a little lippy, get a little dramatic. Because clearly I can see it, you're lying right here. Because Miss Delsha never said anything like that. So right here, this is a lie. And no source or whatever the hell you're going to say said this. But I know everything I need to know about you, John Paul. You're fixated on me. You've been fixated on me since June 2021. You wrote an article and you included me in it. Silly man. And now you just can't seem to think about anything else except for trying to once again use your connections or do whatever, make all these phone calls, run around like a chicken with his head cut off, and just bash my name, and I'm some crazy conspiracy theorist. You're a joke. Nobody in Beaver will talk to you. Why? Everybody in Beaver's cheering me on. Everybody in Beaver wants this to stop. Besides the district attorney, Lozier, who else have you asked in Beaver County about Sheldon Jeter Jr. and did he kill Rachael and did he kill Pugh? Because guess what? Everybody's telling my sources that Sheldon didn't do either one of these. So again, I mean, we're talking like the public defender's office. I mean, who are you talking about? I mean, who are your sources, buddy? I can list a bunch of names here, but it's funny that you keep on mentioning this district attorney, the same person that's trying to he accidentally emailed me back and was trying to set me up for trespassing charges because they couldn't get me on wiretapping. Great town. And the thing is, you know this. You know how they are. You went through it. And then here you are 4 years later when Rachel's murdered. Tells you how deathly afraid she is of the police, and you're going to sit here and say it had nothing to do with her, what she knew about with people, with dating somebody like Frank Catropa. No, it was her personal life. It was her personal life that got her killed. That's very, like, what do you know that we don't know? Were you interviewed by law enforcement? But yeah, Patricia, she never said this. She never said this. He has nothing to write about because nobody's talking to him anymore. That's why he has nothing to write about. Nobody will talk to John Paul anymore. And they shouldn't. Why weren't the DelTondos in that new episode that you did with 48 Hours? Why weren't the DelTondos in that? Oh, that's right. They can't fucking stand you. That's horrible. The victim's parents. Why can't they stand you? If you're just this awesome person. I mean, the victims, they suppose they came to you. Well, Rachel's alive. Rachel's fine. Until she starts talking to you. Who'd you tell that to, that Rachel was talking to you? She told you people were following her. So, I know that you don't meet up with people, right? You're right, Patricia. The comment is gross. He's gross. I do like I said, with my situation, the truth is going to come out, all of it, and the difference is that I didn't lie about anything. And the best part about it is that you guys are all idiots. And you guys all ran your mouths. And now all of that can be, used against you. And it will be. If I'm so irrelevant, why are you talking about me? Why are you commenting about me? Again, Beaver County, there's nothing going on. There's tons of stuff going on in Beaver County. Nothing to write about? Have you talked to anyone besides David Lozier? Because no one believes your stories. No one believes anything that you wrote. They all say Sheldon's innocent and it was a setup. And they most certainly do not think that Sheldon killed Rachael DelTondo. But you're just going to quadruple down versus actually helping an innocent man. Again, John Paul hasn't wrote articles in months and is still charging $10 per month. Is that fraud? When you guys get a membership on this website, does it tell you what you can expect? That's the truth. This place is a hot mess. I know, right? It really is. There's so much that's going on there, and he's just nowhere to be found. But he can be found in the troll chats on YouTube? What? You're supposed to be way above this. Yeah. Anyways, my sources say that they've reached out, they've done emails. He hasn't returned any emails. No refunds. They can't even cancel their membership. That's great customer service there. And then John Paul wants to keep talking about credentials, and I don't understand why. You don't have a degree. You don't have a journalism degree. You don't have a degree, period. And yet you just want to keep on mentioning and talking about the fact that I don't have a PI license. I've never claimed to have a PI license. So what's your point? My point is, I don't know, like, in order to help people, you don't need a license to help people. Again, John Paul took the stand in 2014 for an incident that happened in 2012 when he said that the sheriff tried to kill him. The jury found him not to be credible, as the jury came back within 1 hour. And, I think it probably had something to do with the defense talking about this vendetta that, he had to testify about his husband, and that the sheriff didn't do enough to get him a job. But at the end of the day, within 1 hour, jury comes back and says, not guilty. This never basically happened, is what they're saying. Not guilty means this didn't happen, right? Now, from sources that I talk to, it is normal for John Paul, in order for John Paul not to write about you, you're going to give him something. And it's normally going to be on other people so that he doesn't write about you. And so that if that's, what my sources have said, then I can certainly, see that always being his thing. So him doing that in 2014 or 12 or 11. Again, there was a huge civil rights violation where his husband was the whistleblower, and basically because of his husband probably doing the right thing, in my opinion, would be the right thing. There's been, rumors and sources saying that the retaliation was because of that. It didn't have to do with horseplay. It was because Brad was the whistleblower, and they basically blackballed him. After that, it was like so that should even be more of a reason that John Paul knows what corruption is in Beaver County and what they're capable of and how they lie. I just think it's so funny that, what does he think, that no one lies to him? A lot of people lie to you. In fact, they lie so that you don't write about them. The other part I want to talk about is when you're saying these we's and these I's. Well, we know who you are, but when you use the word we, that's just funny to me. Who's we? And then when you say that, 48 hours came to their own conclusion, and these publications came to their own conclusions about me, and that I'm just, crazy. And they came to these conclusions on their own. Independently is the word you used. Independently. Well, then I have a question for you. I'm going to blow up that lie too. So you're going to sit here and tell me that you didn't contact Judy Rybeck? And you're going to sit here and tell me that Judy Rybeck didn't contact Scott Roeder? Independently, my ass. You're a liar. You're full of shit. John Paul most certainly contacted Judy Rybeck. Judy Rybeck most certainly contacted Scott Roeder. But it's funny, John Paul. I don't know who lies more right now. You or the police or law enforcement. Right now it's a toss-up. So I keep going then back to this whole 2012 incident and in your, version of it. Do I think that you embellished? Of course I do. Because that's all I've seen you do since I've ever met you. You wrote and said that I was a conspiracy theorist. You have no idea who I was. And you're talking about who the family can or can't have sit next to them. Like, who died and made you king on that? Delsha can have whoever she wants sit next to her. Sheldon's family can have whoever they want sit wherever they want in a courtroom. But that's what you chose to write about. What about the facts? What about the evidence? That was a shit show in that courtroom. How many trials have you sat through? That was a complete shit show. That wasn't a fair. I don't care I don't care what trial that was. That display by the prosecution and by the defense and by the judge, that was the worst thing I think I've ever seen in my life in terms of procedure. I mean, Colorado was pretty crazy too, but you burned all your bridges, buddy. And I'm going to need you to stop talking about anything that has to do with my personal life, anything that has to do with Delsha's personal life. And yeah, I am speaking on behalf of the family. But how you don't think that this is committing, like, libel right here? And you want to talk about professionalism? You have zero credibility in Beaver County. And now you're trying to have some credibility on YouTube. Whatever floats your boat, buddy. But you're not going to rock mine. Wax. Let's see, what was this last thing that he said? Yeah, I still don't understand your thought process on why you think that when it comes to the Rachael DelTondo case, that everything's on the up and up. Meanwhile, you know that everything that Beaver does is never on the up and up with authorities, so... But I get it, guys. It's hard to write. It's hard to write when no one's going to talk to you. How do you write a story? How do you I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And just a quick reminder here in case we need it. But I will play. I have a couple more clips here for you. I mean, the assistant police chief was very adamant on who John Paul was and who these sources were, and the shit that was happening.
I said, I don't know how he does it with the USB thing, whatever the fuck he had. I said, I don't really know how he does it. We're gonna have to figure it out. I turned around, this motherfucker already had it plugged in, typing away. What the fuck? I said, hey, they found a gun in Couch's office in the safe with $4,000 on it. There's no reports on that connected to it. Like, for real? He was like, yeah. I said, damn. And so I called my Fed guy. I said, hey, this is what happened. Blah, blah, blah. He said, is the serial number scratched off? I said, let me find out.
Yeah.
He said, no. I called him back. He was like, no.
Wait, that's what, so Matt called you to tell you this?
Told me that, yeah. Because they went through Couch's office. C-Lock and Matt.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Matt was there with C-Lock.
Why the fuck is Matt calling you to tell you this shit?
Listen, he called and told me a lot of shit, but what Matt was doing, he was trying to play all angles.
Oh, I know he was.
Okay, not only that.
I think he was reporting back to somebody.
Not only that. Well, DeJuan, C-Lock, you know what I mean? And John Paul and fucking...
John Paul.
Fucking betters. So, the dude...
So, John Paul, I mean, you don't want to answer any big-time questions. They found a gun. One with the serial number scratched off. Another one with them. In Couch's office, who was just suspended with $4,000 wrapped around the one. You never once wrote about these guns. How Rachael DelTondo was just murdered. Did you ever think that maybe one of those guns could have killed Rachael DelTondo? Did it ever possibly cross your mind? Or did these people not tell you this, that were talking to you all the time? That were your sources? You didn't do anything? You didn't take the information because all you do is run to the police every day and you call down at the court. I mean, you didn't think that this was like, I don't know, important information? You never wrote about it. There's 2 guns. The gun has never been located that killed Rachael. One of the guns is, I mean, just come on. Not a single, no. Who did Rachael say she was deathly afraid of? The police. Who was she talking to? You. Who does she say that she's in fear for her? She's telling you this. She's telling you she's in fear for her life. You thought that the sheriff was going to just blow your brains out in a meeting. So you were in fear of your life in 2012. Rachael DelTondo tells you basically the same thing in 2018. She doesn't mention Sheldon. She doesn't say she was afraid of Sheldon. Never once. Like, and you know this. You know this. And in fact, Rachael told you that there was nothing between those two. Not a sexual relationship. Well, it's Beaver County. Beaver County. It's by Pittsburgh. It's not Philadelphia. It's Pittsburgh. I mean, honestly, I just hope that I gave some people in Beaver County that were afraid of this man and that were threatened by this person, because I know people are and I know people were. I'm just saying that I hope that me and in this channel and my nonprofit, I hope that if there's anything that came about this, that man isn't able to do the stuff that he was doing before. And that you're like not under his spell anymore. But But the threats of like that he was going to write about people if you didn't tell him, if you didn't give him the story that he wanted, he's going to write about you because he knows shit on people. That's unbelievable. That's blackmail. So I think that there's people out there that I probably helped because of this channel and outing and showing you a bunch of stuff. And I hope that it's helped people. And I think that it has. In fact, I know that it has. John Paul isn't writing anymore, is he? So there you go. But yeah, thank you to Credit Sister Knives. Thank you for putting it all together, making my job super easy. I appreciate that. And if anybody wants to believe this person, they can go right ahead. But this guy has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He should just focus on his dying website and how I have actual proof that there was no independent, what was the term that he used? Oh, that all of these producers and channels and whatever, that they independently came to their own conclusions about me. No, actually, you couldn't be more wrong. I have the digital trail. It was handed over to me. A platter, a silver platter. You to Judy Rybeck. Judy Rybeck to Scott Roeder. Gotcha. So, keep it up, though. Keep on hanging out in Trollville because Beaver County doesn't want you. And I guess you weren't credible in 2012. But 2014 when you took the stand. Everybody in Beaver County sees through your stories. I think thanks to me. So you can call me whatever you want. And I don't care what 25 trolls with 5 or 6 alts say about me. Sure don't. But the day that you started talking about people's sex life and saying what Sheldon Jeter Jr.'s mother has claimed, and she's never claimed that, I mean, that's defaming. So, I don't need a fucking license to be good at something. Just like you don't need a scholarship to win Heisman Trophy. I'd be pretty pissed if I was you too. Because I just blew up your narrative. I'd be pretty pissed too. But there should have never been a narrative. It should have just been the truth. You should have just been reporting the facts. And if your sources lied to you, then you should be pretty pissed at them. But this whole time, you running around accusing people. Nope, it was your sources that told me everything. Your sources. Yeah, so. But yeah, thanks for the mods here. If you guys have any questions, I can answer whatever. All the lurkers, I mean, it's just so fucking pathetic. He's pathetic. And I think he's reached an all-time low. Aunt Lala's chat. Hey, who's your source? Well, Aunt Lala, the drunken troll. What do you mean? Oh, cool. Oh, man. I just can't believe all this is just so true. He's just not writing about it on his website. Blog on, man. Till the moon, how was work? You know what's crazy is that I don't. If they thought I was some crazy person, the day it was at it was Sheldon Jeter's sentencing. I don't know what. Then why were all the channels trying to hunt me down and wanted to interview me? If I'm crazy, why would you ever interview a crazy person? They thought actually my friend was me, and they said, "Are you Lana?" And she's like, "No." I mean, she was obviously there with me, but yeah, their cameramen and the reporters were, and they asked me if I would go on camera and want to be interviewed after the sentencing for Jeter, which was the same day that that Tessa was going to be hearing the, you know, about the juror and all that crap. I am pretty funny. I think so. John Paul knows what Beaver's all about. He's known for a long time. The fact that he chose to capitalize financially on Rachael DelTondo versus making sure that Rachel's, you know, killer or killers were caught and did proper blogging instead of having an agenda with financial motivation and Lord knows what else. But all right, well, you guys take care on this note and be kind and chat love with each other. Until next time.